Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Sub Hub Podcast. I'm MK Sullivan. And today, instead of Danny Moreno, we have Francesco Puppi with us. How are you, Francesco?
Hey, nice to be here instead of in place of Danny, I guess. I hope I can live up to the role.
Yeah,
I'm
she's
I'm
pretty
good.
cool.
I'm good, thank you. I'm actually on a training camp that is being organized by the Italian Federation of Athletics ahead of the European Trail and Mountain Running Championship. They're gonna be next week in Annecy, France. So I'll be taking part in the vertical uphill race on the first day of the championship, which is going to be basically Friday, May 31st, so next Friday. Um, and yeah, I'm super excited to be part of the team and just go back to maybe what was my first love, like classic mountain running. I've been doing pretty long races, so it's good to mix it up and yeah, do something different and just be versatile enough to do very different things all at once.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about this offline because you and I both kind of just finished our long, long trail campaign, at least for the beginning of the season. And now we're both going back down in distance. But it's super exciting to see you out at European Championships. And I'm like so jealous of the fact that like the Italian team, the French team, and I'm sure there are other teams that do this too. Like your federation takes it super seriously, like
Oh
sending you
yeah,
guys to training camps. I remember last year at Worlds, like you guys did a training camp out on the course prior to
on the course. Yeah.
Worlds. And I wish that USATF put that kind of like weight on the World Championships and European. We don't do Europeans obviously, but
Yeah.
because it's so cool. You guys have so much experience before you even get to the course itself.
Yeah, exactly. It's really nice and I'm super grateful for the opportunity. I think we do at least, yeah, usually two training camps a year. One is usually in the winter for about a week, and then one is more like competition focused. So if we have like the World Championship, we'll do a training camp ahead of the World Championship if we have the Europeans. Another one, and also we're taking a chance to travel to NSC to actually see the course, so that's going to be another advantage. And just creating the team spirit and bonds in between us and getting to know each other and training together is always super nice. So yeah, very grateful for this opportunity. And I know we're lucky because not many other countries do that.
Yeah, because like in the US, the trail running community is small enough that I knew most of my teammates going into the world championships in some sense, but like we don't know each other that well. So it'd be so cool, yeah, to just like spend time. So then you go into the race and you're already, racing for your country, you're racing for the people around you. But if you really know them well and you're friends with them and you've done training camps, like there's that even closer bond between you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And how have you been feeling since uh Lake Sonoma? I mean, you've made the Italian team, so obviously you're feeling good enough.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it feels like some time ago now, even if it's been only about a month. But the turnaround was really good. I think I was surprised by how quickly I actually recovered. Um, I was pretty intimidated by the recovery, so I think I actually took it seriously this time, and it was very important. I did my first trial race 11 days after Lake Sonoma, and it was okay, like not super good, but I think it was a good rust buster for the second trials, which I ended up winning. So yeah, I was surprised because I didn't think I could beat people, athletes who had trained specifically for this format, this distance, basically like a VK. Um, so when I crossed the finish line in first place, I was like, wow, I'm really fit, and my training is always really focused on quality. Yeah, I run a high mileage, but like, I keep like all the good workouts and quality on flat and uphill, just like um in class, like people who do classic mountain running basically. So yeah, I think just being able to prove that I'm fit in very different distances and terrains, um, it's a really good validation of my training and the work that I've been doing with my coach for years. And I was just thinking that right now I'm in the position where I could basically do all the races in the championship because I ended up doing a race last week, which was like a kind of a tune-up race and just basically me and my coach just wanted to pin a bib because we thought it would be important before the European champs, not so that like my last race it wasn't too long ago. And I ended up winning the race and like beating all the athletes who are going to be part of the team for the up and down race. So I was thinking, oh, right now I could make like every team, the trail team, the uphill team, and the up and down team, which feels pretty cool, and Italy, especially in mountain running, it's so competitive. So when you're that fit, I think yeah, it's like maybe one of the few times in my life where I can tell myself, okay, you've done a good job, maybe.
I think there are definitely other times that you should be telling yourself you've done a good
I
job.
know, but I'm not good at that. Like,
Yep.
yeah, I don't have a ton of self-confidence, but that's another chapter, so we'll keep it for next time.
Yeah. And I think is like athletes like yourself and like myself who have backgrounds in like flat fast stuff, um doing those like longer blocks like you did for Lake Sonoma or like I did for canyons like just adds to your base and then the speed always comes back like way quicker than you think it will.
Yeah,
Like you're like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so slow now because I ran a 50-mile race." And then you give it, good recovery time and you do a workout and you're like, "Oh, what was I thinking? I'm still fast."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like, I think where people misunderstand maybe is when like I think a VK is still very much like an aerobic performance. Like it's not purely an aerobic or like a VO2 max effort. So it's like a lot more similar to a 50K or like even a 50 miler if you think about uh if you think about it from like a metabolic perspective, like from a training perspective. Then of course it's true that they ran at two very different intensities, but there was actually a study that my coach told me about that they basically found out that in a long trail race like an 80K or 100K and in a short mountain race like around an hour to 75 minutes, basically the time that good athletes spend at threshold or higher intensities is the same. So that to me is pretty cool and
Yeah,
indicates that that's where your fitness should be.
definitely. And I
Yeah,
think so many more people that do like longer stuff who think they're slow are probably able to do events like the
exactly.
VK, but they just like don't give themselves the chance because they're like, like I'm a 100K athlete. Like I just like to go jog around in the mountains, but they're probably still decent at stuff like that.
For sure.
Hey all, Dani here, professional trail runner and co host of the Sub Hub podcast. Last year, after getting sick before a big race, I started looking into natural ways to boost my immune system. So I embarked on a little research journey, trying out a few different options. And you know what? I found myself reaching for one set of products again and again, and that was Beekeepers Naturals. And guess what? They are now a partner of the pod. Founded with a mission to reinvent the medicine cabinet, Beekeepers Naturals offers an array of immune boosting products free from harmful chemicals and artificial ingredients. Their hero ingredient is called propolis. It's nature's defender of the hive, packed with antioxidants, vitamins, and minerals. Well, my personal favorite product is the throat spray. They also have lozenges, syrups, and a bunch of great options for kids. So if you're looking for a natural option to boost your immune system, consider trying Beekeepers Naturals products. And be sure to use the code SUBHUB20 for 20% off of all of your orders at beekeepersnaturals.com. Now back to the episode.
Well, the reason that Francesco is here and Dani is not is because Dani is racing Zegama this weekend, which Francesco has joined me to preview because you've run it twice or three times?
Twice. Yeah.
Twice.
The last
So
2 editions.
I have not run it at all. So it's nice to have some expertise on the pod today. But yeah, this is the 23rd edition of Zegama. The race started back in 2002. And normally this is the first race of the Golden Trail series and kind of the kickoff of the mountain season for a lot of people. But because they added the 2 races in Japan and China, this is now the 3rd race in the Golden Trail series. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of affects people who've already raced, but like the point system for the rest of the year. Yeah, just kind of discombobulating everything for some people.
I know. It feels like there is quite a lot of people who actually didn't race the Asian races and are have chosen to sign up for Zegama. So besides a few names, I think it's going to be a few different faces, a few different athletes that we're going to see, especially in the top positions. Maybe that is less true for the woman, where, for example, Daniela Olmos, Sarah Alonso, Melanie Oza, and Therese Leboeuf have all raced in Asia. Also, Sumaya Buda, for example. And then we're going to preview, of course, the men's and women's race. But yeah, obviously traveling to Asia and doing those races wasn't the easiest thing for a number of athletes, I think. So many of them have chosen to open their season with Zegama, which obviously is such a prestigious race that for a lot of them feels like a goal in itself beyond the fact that it's part of the Golden Trail series. So we'll
Yeah.
see.
It's like winning Zegama and Mont Blanc Marathon and Sierra Zinal are almost like separate of the Golden Trail series, but obviously it also gets you like big points.
Yeah, yeah. It's huge. It's like for an ultra runner winning like UTMB or Western States for sure.
Yeah. We wanted to point out to you guys, just to kind of give you guys an idea of how big this race is, like how popular this race is, not in the US, obviously. Usually around 15,000 people register for the lottery, but they only give out 500 bibs just based on how many people that they're allowed to have on the course. And that just seems crazy.
That is mind-blowing. Yeah. And the Basque countries, people are obsessed with this race. They're so passionate. And of course, the Gama is known, yeah, for sure for the athletes and the ambience, but mostly for the spectators, the fans that gather on the course and cheer the athletes. And the Basque people are just the craziest people for trail running. Like it's incredible. And having ran that race, it's an experience like that I've never had anywhere else.
Yeah, I've been told that it's like the closest thing that we'll find to like a Tour de France kind of crowd because there's
Exactly.
like 30,000 people attend this race each year and there can be like 10,000 people on the climb where you guys are all like, you know, working as hard as you can and people are screaming in your face and like telling you great job and like pushing. I've seen people like pushing uphill, you know, like it seems so cool.
Yeah, you should go watch the Golden Trail series uh, recaps from the previous years because they did a really good job in like portraying that and like making you feel the atmosphere and everything
Yeah.
that there is on the course.
Yeah, I have definitely watched plenty of Zegama YouTubes, but highly suggest watching that if you don't really know what Zegama is, because Zegama is Zegama, as they say. And then so I think we should start by going over the course a little bit. On the men's side, our course record for this race
Sure.
is 3 hours 36 minutes by none other than Kilian Jornet. And then the women's course record is 4:16 by Nienke Brinkman 2 years ago. And that year, all three women, Nienke, Maud, and Sarah Alonso, actually went under the course record. But Nienke obviously came out on top. The race is 26.5 miles, 8,500 feet of vert, so 42K, 2,750 meters. And the technicality of the race is, I feel like, something that's really debated. Some people will tell you it's not
Yeah.
technical at all. Other people will tell you it's super technical. And some will tell you that it just depends on the weather. So you've run this race, I think, in like 2 different weather years. Can you kind of run us through the
Very
course?
different. So I'm definitely one of the people that is going to tell you that Zegama is pretty technical, and obviously it's quite different depending on the weather conditions. The first year that I ran the race was 2022, obviously the year where both men's and women's records were set. So really good conditions, dry trails, sunny weather, good temperature, and in fact, Nienke and Kilian crossed the course. The year after, it was totally the opposite. Like it was brutal. It was incredibly rainy and muddy. Like it had been raining for basically the whole week of Zegama since I got there ahead of the race, maybe like 5 days before. And we had rain the day of the race, which made it like super, super technical and slippery because the rocks and the mud make it like, yeah, very, very technical by my standards, which are, I think, like, yeah, I'm not a skyrunner, so I will not say that Zegama is a sky race. But I feel like I've ran some pretty technical trails, and by, alpine standards or UTMB standards, let's say, like if you ran the trails in Chamonix, Zegama is definitely more technical. I think the race can be divided in roughly 3 sections. One is like the first section, the first 10K, that are mostly uphill, and it's pretty fast, especially in good conditions. You're mostly running on single track and then through some like grassy hills on either on dirt or on the grass. And then from 10K to 30K, that's where it gets pretty technical. First, you climb on top of Arats, which is like the first summit of the day. Then there is a fairly technical descent. You go through a cave that is really famous because it's like on the Santiago Trail, which is like a long distance trail that is very popular in Europe. And then there is like the very famous Sancti Spiritu, that is where all the crowds gather and where all the fans cheer the athletes, like where, there is like all the pictures of the crowds and people running in the middle. That is obviously very steep. Then you have the Aizkorri ridge and the descent, which are by far the most technical section of the race. Just to give you an idea, I think so, like you're not doing a ton of elevation in that section. Like it's kind of a ridge where you don't drop and you don't go up in elevation. And you're maybe running around 15 minutes per mile. And it's like just 15 minutes of racing, but it's like, yeah, really, really
After
technical.
running so hard for so long, that I'm sure that feels
Yeah,
so slow.
it's maybe at mile 15. Then there is like a fairly technical descent that is around 10 minutes. And then the race gets a little more runnable, and you get about like around kilometer 30, so about mile 19. And there is just like one small final climb that is very painful because it's steep and like is almost it comes like after basically close to 8,000 feet of climbing. And then there is this very long descent that is probably around 7.5 miles or 12K down to the finish. And it's really fast. Like you have to be able to run very fast. It's non-technical for most parts. It can be fairly hot, even if it's like in the forest. But since like you're close to the middle of the day, it can be on a good day, like with the sun, it can be hot. And if it's muddy, it becomes really muddy. So it's a challenge just to just stand up. But yeah, so basically fast start, then technical middle section, and fast finish. That's how you should look at the course.
And so far this year, it has not been too rainy. They're kind of looking at more of a 2022 type year, it seems. The race starts at 9 a.m. And I think Danny was telling me that the high for the day is looking to be around 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So pretty warm.
Pretty warm.
Whereas last year was just like an absolute slop fest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a great little rundown of the course. I was like looking at the Strava while you were talking about it. Perfect.
Yeah,
Love it.
there is like this segment of the ridge. If you check it out, you actually realize how slow it is. And since you don't even climb or you don't even drop in elevation, I think it gives you an idea of how technical it is. There is a little scrambling, like you definitely have to put your hands, and it's a little exposed, kind more like in a sky race.
Yeah. And you can tell like I'm looking at Sarah Alonso's Strava right now from 2022. So not even a muddy year. And most of her gap paces, are like 6:15 to 8 minutes. But this mile 15, her mile pace was 16:48 and her gap pace is 12:14. So like you're moving pretty slow on that ridge, despite the fact that it's like not it's not really flat, but you're not going up or down at least.
Yes.
So before we talk about the athletes, we'll talk about Zegama prize money real quick. I think this is pretty typical Golden Trail prize money. On both the men's and the women's side, first place will get 3,000 euros, 2,000 euros, 1,000 euros, 900, 800, 700, 600, 500, 400, 300. So that's all the way through 10th place for prize money. They will have drug testing. They used to do quartz, but now they are using WADA, which I think Francesco and I both are big thumbs up about.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, you can't
Um,
really call anti-doping quartz because it's like a health program and they don't have
yeah,
the power to
take you
really
out of
do what,
competition.
yeah, take you out of competition or like do what actual anti-doping is. So I think it would be important if people refer to anti-doping only if it's WADA because that's the only one that we can actually call anti-doping.
Yeah, they're the only ones that actually have any power with their positive
Yeah.
or negative drug tests. That's a good point. I like that. And so the race is on May 26th, starts at 9 a.m. There will be a live stream on the Golden Trail World Series YouTube. Mandatory gear for this race, pretty minimal. Just a windproof coat, and you have to carry a cup for liquids because it's a cupless race. And we're pretty sure that athletes can receive aid at all of the aid stations, which is nice.
I think so. At least most of them. There are quite a few along the course. I think I remember, yeah, that I was able to organize my refreshment points pretty easily. So yeah, that's not gonna be like a challenge for the athletes, I think.
That's always really nice. In these marathon races, to carry less is obviously always better if you
Yeah.
can. And then we're gonna go a little bit deeper into this, but just kind of a surface level. This is what the Golden Trail World Series has decided is their top 10 going into this race. On the men's side, we have Kilian Jornet coming back. Manuel Marias, who was the champion last year. Bart, I can never say Bart's last name. I'm so sorry, Bart.
Bart Przewieski.
There we go. Thank goodness we have Francesco. El Huzin is back. Robert Camoy is back. He does really well at this race. Is Davide actually going to be there?
I think so.
So
I haven't heard from him, but I think his running is healthy and he should be back. Yeah.
that's really cool because he has not raced in a couple of years. So Davide Magnini, who has the second fastest time on this course, I believe.
Yes.
Robbie Simpson, Marcin Kubica, Kevin Cabet, Aritz Caceres. And then on the women's side, Daniela Oimas, who won last year, Caitlin Fielder, Therese LaBeouf, Sarah Alonso, our own Danny Moreno, Malinosa, Nayara Irigoyen. So if you've been listening to our Skyrunner previews, you know that name. Sylvia Nordskar, Sunmaya Buddha, and Bailey Kowalczyk from the US. This episode is brought to you by our friends at Never Second. Although they are a relatively new brand in the space, Never Second has been working with some of the biggest names in trail running over the last couple years, like UTMB champs Katie Scheid and Jim Walmsley. Never Second makes fueling easy with their modular system that allows you to create the exact carbohydrate formula for your activity. Their products are meant to be mixed and matched so that you can have 30, 60, 90, or even 120 grams of carbs per hour. I used Never Second in my recent second place finish at the Canyons 100K, where I also snagged a golden ticket. Despite being pretty nervous and nauseous at the start of the race, I was able to get down all of my nutrition because of the easy consistency and light flavors of Never Second products. I drank 90 grams of carbs over 90-minute increments and supplemented with one C30 an hour. I alternated between the C90 mix and a 3-scoop C30 mix to get a little bit more sodium every bottle. I also alternated my gels with a C30 plus that included caffeine so that I wouldn't get too tired as the race went on. I never experienced flavor fatigue or an upset stomach for the entirety of the 100K. If you want to try Never Second, just head to neversecond.com. That's NEVER, the number 2.com, and use code SUBHUB25 for a 25% discount on all your orders. So, should we hop into the men's first? Do you want to go through some of the men's names that
Sure.
excite you?
Yeah, obviously the top 10 list that was released by the Golden Trail is really exciting, starting from Kilian Jornet. If you follow him, I think you've realized how over the past few years he tends to choose his races very carefully. And this is actually the only one of the two races that you're gonna see him this year. So he announced his calendar earlier this season and is only gonna run at Zegama and Sierre, which put a lot of pressure and weight on these two races and his performance, which I think is really cool. Obviously, Manu Marias is a big favorite. Is kind of like the local guy. Is won last year. I think he's hoping for rainy conditions, as he mentioned several times last year. So we'll see. I think a lot will depend on the conditions, but um, it's always a good course for Manu. Um, Going back to Killian, I think is if you've been following his training, I think is really fit. Like he's done always like is always doing a ton of volume, but like some super impressive training sessions up in Norway where he lives. Some of them with Petter Engdahl and John Albon, who have proven to be in really good shape. Um, I think he's ran like a marathon to simulate Zegama a couple of weeks ago in 2:57 with like 7,000 feet of elevation, just to give an idea. So he like went sub 3 hours with that kind of course, which is crazy. So yeah, I'm actually super excited to see Killian, and I think he is the big favorite of this race. Obviously, having won, I think 9 times, it's one of the races that is won the most. I think Bar Przewieski is a good contender. He's done well before and is known to be good in technical races, but he can also run fast, and I think the marathon distance suits him very well. Alzin Alzawi is also in really good shape after the Asian campaign, where he plays well in both Kobe Trail and Seven Sister Mountain Trail in China. Robert Kamoi is from Kenya. Is a good contender in this race. He's done really well before. I think he's got one of the fastest times. Uh, I don't remember what time he ran in 2022, but I think he was top 5. Obviously, Davide Magnini was running with Killian for most part of the race when he set the record in 2022, and he still got his second fastest time. The only question mark on Davide is that he was mostly injured for the 2023 trail season. I think he's had a pretty good year on his ski season, because he's a ski mountaineer in the winter, and I think he's done pretty well this year. So as always, it'll be interesting to see how he transitions onto the trails and what kind of fitness is that. But he usually does pretty well, so I think it will be for sure a top contender. Robbie Simpson from UK, Adidas Terex. Yeah, really solid guy. Always does well. I think it's his Zegama debut, so it'll be
I
interesting
didn't
to
know
see
that.
him.
That'll be great.
Yeah, Marcin Kubica is from Poland, and I think he's also one of the athletes that raced at Kobe Trail and Seven Sister Mountain Trail. So he's definitely looking to get some points for the Golden Trail Series general ranking.
And it looks like he was 7th here last year, maybe. So he's already been
Wow,
top 10 previously.
cool. Kevin Kibat from Kenya. I think it was the third from Sergina last year, is part of this team that is called the Milimani Runners. They're sponsored by On, and they're taking trail running very seriously. They have a Swiss coach, and like he's training them for trail and mountain races. So I think we're gonna see them quite a few times this summer in the Golden Trail Series, and possibly even on the UTMB World Series. So keep an eye on him. And finally is like the local Aritz Agea, is from the Basque countries, and is like the local favorite. So yeah, is ran for Salomon for a number of years. Now he's like, I don't think he's sponsored anymore, but um like when they do the presentation of the athletes before the race, besides Kylian Jornet, I think he's usually the one that gets the most applause. So it's pretty cool. Other names that we can mention, Luca Del Piero from Italy is the third place finisher from the Trail World Championship last year. He also raced at Zegama last year, so I think it will be a good contender if his fitness is good. Damian Bogdan is at his third race in the Golden Trail Series this year, and he's done pretty well in the Asian trip. Other names that stand out, Petro Mamu for sure. First time in Zegama, but he's won a number of World Mountain Running Championship. He's won Series Nacional before. He's just, I think this year he ran a 2:08 marathon in Sevilla.
Whoa.
So he's been racing on the road and he's been doing that really fast. Um, Sevilla obviously was back in February, but it'll be interesting to see him on his trail debut for this season. Luis Coiffé is mostly racing in the Skyrunning World Series, but he's won a few World Series races last year, so I think he can do really well in Zegama. For sure, keep an eye on him. Other names, Leonard Mitrica from Romania, um, Robert Loic from France, Jean-Marc Schichtens from Switzerland. He's new to Zegama. He has an interesting story because he kind of started from the long ultras, like 100K plus races, and he's now going back to the shorter distances. He's been doing pretty well. So yeah, just an interesting story of an athlete that you should keep an eye on.
Yeah, the men's race has like a ton of people, like you were saying earlier, that aren't listed in the top 10, but very well could be on the day. I mean, Luca Del Pero has done pretty well in the few sky races that he's competed in already this year. So
Yes.
I think this will be a good
Yeah, obviously,
opener.
we've got the top 10 by the Golden Trail World Series, but there is at least twice as many people who could be in this top 10. So
Yeah.
to give you an idea of how deep the field is. And they probably gave something like 70 or 80 elite runners bibs on the men's side. So yeah, if you think about the size of the race, that's a huge percent.
Yeah, definitely. I think the women's side is probably a little less up in the air. I mean, I think that's just generally women's versus men's racing and at this point. But I'm so excited for this race because I mean, just off the top, Danielle Oymas won this race last year, and then she went on to finish top 10 at Worlds, as well as I think she was top 5 at Mont Blanc Marathon, and I feel like there was one other race that she ran like in that short period of time that I think she did really well at OCC as well last year. But she's back and she did really well at both the races in Japan and China. So she's obviously fit right now. Caitlin Fielder has run this race a couple of times. She was second at Zegama last year, fourth at OCC, and second at Mont Blanc Marathon last year, or 2022. So she's got lots of experience at this distance, and I just love watching Caitlin run this race because she has so much fun doing it too. Therese LeBoeuf continuing to just kind of move up into everyone's top 5, I think. I think she was somebody last year that like nobody was really paying attention to, but they should have been because
Exactly.
she was third at World Champs in Austria, third at Zegama last year. I think she was fifth at Mont Blanc Marathon. She's already been third at Kobe this year, and she was very close to catching Sarah Alonso at the end of that
Yep.
race. So she'll definitely be one to watch out for. Sarah Alonso, I think, is probably the favorite going into this race, mostly because she's a Spanish woman, not necessarily like I still think Daniela is probably like because she won it last year, maybe she's the favorite. But I think in a lot of people's minds, it's Sarah Alonso. She was third at Zegama in 2022 when Ninke ran the course record. She also ran under the course record. Then she got hurt for a little bit. And I think this is kind of like her big focus for this year because she wasn't able to do it last year. She was also first at Mont Blanc Marathon in 2022 after her third place at Zegama. And so far this year, she's won Calamoro Sky Race. She was second at Kobe, and she's currently third overall in the series. She didn't do very well. Well, she still did well. She didn't do as well and the race in China, but we kind of figured that because Sarah hates altitude. Dani Moreno, she is my co-host, and in my heart, she's my favorite. So Dani was recently first at the Canyons 50K in a course record time. She was second at Mammoth Trail Fest after kind of a rough season last year, right behind Judith. She was making a hard push at the end to catch her. And in 2022, she was that's Bailey. I was about to read her. In 2022, she was third at Mont Blanc Marathon and third at OCC. So Dani's on the comeback train from last year, and I think that she is ready to be on the podium, if not win this race. Malinosa has been really consistently in the top like 5 in all of the Golden Trail races that she's run since basically Zegama last year, I think. She was fourth overall in the series right now, was 5th at China, 5th at Kobe. She finished 4th overall in the series last year. And she just continues to get better. Also a Spanish woman. Both her and Sarah Alonso have already previewed the course, I know. So she'll be ready. Nayara Irigoyen. Oh, what were you
Malin
saying?
lives basically on the course, like very close to
Oh,
Zegama, so it's like she's the local girl.
that's really cool. I didn't know that she lived in that
Yeah.
area. Nayara Irigoyen is currently ranked first in the Skyrunner World Series right now. We have not seen her in the Golden Trail World Series yet this year, but this seems like a course that would suit her really well. Sylvia Nordskar, I think I'm having to scroll all over the place here, but Sylvia was top 10 at both the race in Japan and in China. Sunmaya Buddha, how many Golden Trail races has Sunmaya competed in Golden Trail prior to this year
I don't think so. She's known for
for like
being a
her
really
longer
good
stuff?
ultra runner. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I don't think she's ever done a Golden Trail Series race before.
Yeah, but now she's I mean, her first Golden Trail race was the race in China where she was 4th, I'm pretty sure. And now she's coming to Zegama, and I wouldn't count her
That's good.
out. She surprised me in that race in China. Like obviously she's from Nepal, and so like the altitude was a bit of an advantage for her, but those women are fast even at altitude. So she's obviously fast too. Bailey Kowalczyk, she
I think
was
she's very skilled in the mountains.
yes. Yeah. Bailey was 3rd at Sky Race Magazines this year. She was 5th at Sears and All and 7th at Pikes Peak in 2022. Last year, she didn't get to race as much. So I think this year she's like kind of gearing up to go. She's also been in Spain since, or over in Europe since Sky Race Day Magazine. So she hasn't had to deal with too much travel. She's probably pretty acclimated to the time. Some other names that aren't on the top 10 list that I wanted to note were Inez Estrain Moreno from Spain. She was 15th at Zegama last year. And Candice Fairton, who was 7th at OCC last year. Rosa Laru Felio, who was 3rd at Trans Gran Canaria Marathon recently. And Marta Martinez Abeyan from Española, from Spain. 8th at Zegama last year. And I think that kind of rounds out our women's elite field, or what I see to kind of be like our top 10 contenders.
Yeah, I agree.
So is there anything else that you want to say on Zegama before we kind of throw out our podium picks?
I don't know. Like on the American side, I'm pretty excited for Dani Moreno. Obviously, I think the main challenge for her will be the technicality of the race. Other than that, she is totally prepared. Um, I'm also excited because the race is really international. There is a really good representation of athletes from many countries, as always. So yeah, another sign that our sport is growing, as we all know. But um, this this is actually the place where this growth is happening, especially at an elite level. So make sure you tune in on Sunday morning, if you live in Europe, or what would it be?
Yeah, I was just thinking I should check.
I
It's
think
9 a.m.
Saturday
CNT.
night for US.
Yeah, I think it's probably midnight. Yeah. If you want to wake up at midnight and watch the Gama, or just wake up really
Yeah.
early to watch the last like 30 minutes. But we'll definitely put that YouTube link in our show notes and probably on our Instagram as well, so that you guys can find it pretty easily. So, should we throw out some top 3 picks?
For sure. Let's do it.
All right. So, I'll go first for the men. I think I'm going to go Kilian Jornet, El Hussein, and then Manuel. Who are your top
Cool.
3 men?
Yeah. I'll choose the same for first and second. So Kylian Jornet, Elozine Lazawi. And then I'm gonna go with Robert Kemmoy for the third place.
All right. It is a dry year, so that's a pretty good pick.
Yeah.
On the women's side,
What about the
I'm gonna
woman?
go. Let's see. This one's harder for me, but I'm gonna go Dani Moreno, Sarah Alonso, Therese LeBoeuf.
Yeah, with the woman it's harder. Just because, for example, Kaylin, she hasn't raced this year, so I don't know what kind of fitness she is.
The
Also,
women aren't like as deep per se, but they're very condensed.
very condensed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably Sarah Alonso, Malinoza, and Daniela Omus.
All right. Our women's picks are wildly different. I like that. So if you guys are doing
I
free
mean,
trail fantasy this week, you'll have to pick who you trust more, I guess. Francesco has run this race.
yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me today. And you gave some great insight on the course. And we always appreciate having you on. So hopefully you'll be back soon.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. I hope I did a good job.
Oh, it was great. And everybody loves Francesco. So
Thanks.
yeah, so make sure to watch Zegama. Make sure to subscribe to our SubHub headlines, because we will have a lot of the results and stuff from this last month, as well as what's coming up next and some fun stories. And subscribe to our YouTube, follow us on Instagram. This has been the SubHub podcast, brought to you by Free Trail.